We are the Knights of Awakening. And I mean that. You don't often think about what it means to be a knight, or knightly until you've got to do it, until something happens that you've got to dive in head first into danger and risk, and you come out of it beat up and hurt and everything else that goes with that. But we are the Knights of Awakening. And the topic today is the topic of suicide and selfishness. I want to thank everyone for joining before I go any further. I want to thank everyone for the outpouring of support during recent events. On behalf of the family, which I am considered an adopted part of, we thank you. On behalf of everyone who ran in head first to be there for the family as it grieved to make some kind of difference, I want to thank you. If you've offered your support or your condolences, or if once you realized what was going on, you heeded the request to not contact. That may sound funny, but that does more. A lot of people contacted before they realized what was going on. Justin Gates being one of them. And when he found out, he's told me, he said, "Wow, I felt so bad that I was looking for you because you went silent after I'd seen your post." And I had made a conscious decision to not have my Kindle synced up with any networks, which is my go-to outside device, so that I could focus on all this. And I asked my wife to take the sacrifice of keeping up with the day-to-day in the form of letting people know what was going on, because I needed to focus on everything else. So, don't worry about the fact if you did contact initially. But for those that when it was asked, not to contact further and then realized what was going on, as Justin did afterwards, we want to thank you for that. The time that was needed to focus on things was necessary. For those that contacted my shop and wanted magic done right now, because their spells were more important than anything else. We had one person do that, by the way, and they probably won't even see us because I think we blocked them. I was going to do a whole spiel of threatening them with what I could do to them with magic and how they might have to pay me to stop. Instead, I'm going to say this: no matter how important you think your life is, sometimes there are other things more important at that moment. No matter how important you think, what I do is for you, at the moment at which I am 5 hours out of my home, my shop, dealing with a grieving widow who's like a mother to me, and a friend who's like a brother, and who I call a brother, a woman who I call mama. You don't have any concept, and I'll address that in a future video when I can get nice and worked up. I want to apologize for everyone, because I know that I'm going to sound a little strange. My sinuses have went into full-blown revolt. I may be down with a head cold after all of this. I know I haven't eaten right for the past 5 days, and I have not slept right up until last night, and even then my body woke me up earlier than it should have, because some part of me still wants to know what more I can do. So thank you for joining. Thank you for, making it through the past 3 minutes of explaining that. This video exists because I had a little bit of a debate with some friends of mine. Not really a debate, discussion about what was going on. I said how selfish it was how this went down. And I was told I don't have a right to call it selfish because I wasn't inside the person's head. I'll probably have some dark humor for that, for this is done, maybe not, I don't know. So, this is going to address that. If you don't like it, fuck off. Off is the direction in which you can fuck at that point. Because it was selfish. And as I detailed to you what happened, what the family went through, what I went through, for everyone out there, I want you to understand how selfish suicide is and why it is selfish. And I'm going to hit on the fact that we all go through feelings of it too. And why we don't do it, and why our brain does go to it. Okay? So, let me start with this. Selfish is an interesting word. Selfish doesn't always mean wrong, though in this case I would say it does. Selfish is part of what we are. If you wake up in the morning and eat, you're thinking about yourself. You're selfish at that moment. You could have been doing something else with your time. You have to be selfish to survive, to thrive, to do things. Selfishness is the thing that propels us and moves us forward. I'll be honest. I was selfish when I traveled 5 hours. You know, me and my wife both take this trip. She's the primary driver because I have a learner's permit, because driving was something that's never really a big part of my life, and now I'm trying to make it a part of it. I'm trying to better myself. See, selfish. And when you hear your brother is in need, you do something selfish, in that you worry about getting to him above everything else, and everyone else that matters doesn't at that moment until you get to him. And that's selfish, and that's part of selfishness. But there's two types of selfishness. There's selfishness that doesn't cause massive, severe trauma and harm to those around you, and there's selfishness that does. And this falls into the category that does. The massive trauma that was suffered by everyone else, because the person who did this is gone. They are not feeling anything, sadly, although part of me is just so angry that I wish they were. Part of me is right on the edge of real rage, and it's not that animated thing you see on some of the videos here, but it's far, far more intense. Because how could they do this to everyone else? And it's not just the act of suicide. In this case, it was how it was done, but the act of suicide always has this. So before I go any further, I'm sure you're here listening, if you don't know what the details are, that you're going to need those details to fully understand what I'm saying. So I'm going to hit on that. And I also want to let you know that on Nights of Awakening, we have shared the post for the relief fund for Mama, since she has inherited all of the bills that go with a suicide. Because did you know that insurance doesn't pay off when you kill yourself, in case you're wondering out there? It really doesn't pay off if you made sure not to pay your insurance. And she's going to have to deal with all of this. And I just wish there was something more I could do, so I guess I'm doing this, because there's not much more I can do. 5 days of trying to make sure she was okay and make sure my brother was okay. And his fiance, and just, there's not much more I can do but this. So I'm going to do this, because that's what you do. That's what it means to be a Night of Awakening. So like I said, I mean that more than ever. We are the Knights of Awakening, and I'm going to do something nightly, God's damn it. What I just went through, I'm still in PTSD from it, I'm sure, some form. Though it's not the full extent that one would experience in a war. I'm going to retell some of the events that occurred. I may have to drink my soda in between. I may get a little teary, I may not. I wasn't that close to the man who shot himself. I was close enough, but I got a text message from my brother, and that's what I'm going to call him from here on out. You know, because it's what I've always called him anyway, but I'm not going to use his real name. Through his business account, we put up, you know, the funds to help the family, the requests. He's even offering to do work at his shop, you know, and do it through that. So if you just don't like to donate, but have always wanted to try his stuff, now is the time, I guess, you know. We would be more than happy. He would be more than happy to bury himself in work just to make sure that his mom doesn't have to worry about these bills. So I get a text message from him. I'm not going to name the guy's name because I don't want people searching the records, but it says, he just shot himself. In my mind, I built this wonderful little world in my mind, in my head, that he went home. His wonderful wife, who is like a mother to me, went out to work. He's an older fella. He sat down, he had himself a beer, and he smoked something, maybe something really good to make him feel better, and took a pistol or a shotgun or God knows what to his head and pulled the trigger. And I said, yeah, that's sad, but if you gotta go. You know, I know he was sick. I know he's in a lot of pain. He had multiple organs that were trying to go out on him. I believe he had cancer. He had a lot going on. And, yeah, I could see that. I could really and truly, see that in my mind. That's not that bad, I mean, wow, poor mama. We gotta get up there. We gotta get her on the phone or something and talk to her, because this is gonna be real rough on her. That wasn't the case. We found that out later. We found out that, he did it in front of her. And by that point, we were already making the decision to get up there, because it was, I was shocked. I was beside myself. My wife knew, though, that I needed to be up there. And I knew I needed to be up there, but I can't flap that fast. So she had called up members of our family and moved heaven and earth to get us a car that we could get up there. So as we're getting ready to roll out, we're packing everything we think we might need for a three day trip. My grandmother-in-law, who did the rental car stuff that was necessary to get us there, planned for an 8-day trip just in case, because she knows how this stuff goes down. The wisdom of age kicked in there, and she recognized that this was not going to be as easy as we thought. This was not going to be a simple 3-day down trip, and then come back on day 3, No. And it wasn't. So she made sure that was taken care of. We got packed. We went over all of our supplies again, all of our basic medicines that we need to take to be functional. And then, probably within an hour and a half hearing this, we rolled out. The trip getting there, we're running through things in our mind. Well, what did he do? How did he do it? And he shot himself in the car. That's what we find out. I think we found that out before we actually made it out the door. And I'm like, oh, wow. It wasn't an accident. This guy knows guns. He doesn't make accidents like that. You don't make an accident like that. Where did he shoot himself or what? No, this was the thing. We find out, I get a call from my brother, and he goes, he shot himself in front of her. But suddenly another text message he sent to me made sense. He said, I will not lose my stepfather today. I will pull his soul out of hell and shove it back in his cold, dead body. And that's a very emotional statement, especially from a mystic. And I didn't understand that until he said, yeah, he shot himself in front of her. And then all of a sudden it made sense. And then I found out he didn't just shoot himself in front of her like, she was 100 feet away and he was in the car. No, she was in the driver's seat when he did this. He put the gun to his head and he pulled the trigger. And only the blessing of the gods. Is she still with us? Because that bullet could have went right through. And maybe that's what he wanted, maybe not, I don't know. So we've got that on us for the trip up. We get there. Everyone's still out and about. They've given us their address, and they've made sure the door is unlocked for us. When we come in, we sit down, we pet the dog, because the dog is lovable and stupid. And lovable and stupid is just what you need right now. And we don't even put anything on the TV, even though we've been given all the information, Wi-Fi passwords. We just kind of sit, because we know that this is coming. That this is going to be one of those things that echoes through the life of everybody involved in some capacity, and we just sit. And finally, we get, we're there. He comes back with his mom, and she is just not well or with it, and I give her the biggest hug I've ever given anyone. And I've been there for another death in the family, and I was one of the people that could help comfort her there then, because I'm good at that. I'm not good at a lot of things maybe in this world sometimes, emotionally, but I'm good at that. I'm good at kind of putting people back together. So that was one of the reasons why I had to be there too, for that. And she starts to break down and cry, and I know what's going through her, because I lost my mother 16 years ago, almost, on May 4th, 16 years ago, so almost to this time frame. I know what she's going through, because you blame yourself. This is your fault. You should have done something, and that's what goes through your head. So I know what is going on in her mind, And I am holding her, and I'm telling her, this is not your fault. This is not your fault. You know, he was sick. You know, he was ill. You know, that moves people and it drives people. The pain got to him. I'm saying whatever I can say to help get her off of this mind frame. Out of this mind fuck is what it is, because your mind is fucked up. Because the first thing you go through when someone dies in front of you is that it's your fault, okay? The second thing you go through is why? And you wonder if they didn't love you enough to stay, okay? And that's natural causes, okay? And that's personal goddamn experience. And I can only imagine how much worse it has to be when someone blows their goddamn brains out in front of you. I got her to where she was okay. And we set up bedding for everyone, and we laid down for the sleepless night. And we woke up. The daylight woke me up. Normally I sleep till 10 o'clock in the day. But for this trip, not. And even today, not so much. Because as soon as daylight hit, I was up and I was like, I gotta make sure everyone's okay. I do a guard dog thing when I sleep, and people don't understand what I mean by that. I wake up every couple hours and I look around. Sometimes I walk around and I patrol. It's just what I do. I don't know what else to do. I gotta make sure everyone's okay whenever something like this happens. This is to tell you about how selfish this action was, because there's a cleanup too. You know, everyone thinks if you kill yourself and people magically show up to clean up the mess, you know? Because I got my goddamn blood and brain cleaning elves to show up and do this. No. Here's what happens, okay? What happens is your stepson and his best friend get to clean you out of the car. Yeah, isn't it wonderful? That is what happens when you fucking do shit like this. Okay? No team of people show up for your grieving family to make sure they don't have to deal with this. They're told, this is your problem now. We are so sorry for your loss. And God's damn, that's what you hear the whole time. We are so sorry for your loss. We are so sorry for your loss. And countless people that have no right to say anything show up and go, is there anything I can do to help? And if you had anything you told them you needed them to do to help, they'd be like, well, I can't do that. So it doesn't matter, because they're not going to do anything to help anyway. That's what you go through when someone commits suicide. That's what you experience. That is your reality. That's the emotional fallout. That's the immediate. Okay, the immediate is having a grieving widow who this was not just her husband, but her hero in her life, okay? She looked up to him like a god, okay? For all of his faults and all of his good parts, she thought the world of him. And that's selfish. To go out like that, and in an instant, take yourself from that person when you could have done it in so many ways that didn't leave them there in pain, or at least not pain like that. That memory is going to be etched into her mind for the rest of her damn life. I have a set of notes to make sure I cover each thing I wanted to say. And the next one is the emotional fallout, the extended. The extended is the cleanup, dealing with all of this, dealing with people, dealing with situations, the physical fatigue that you undergo during it. You know, no one slept right while I was there. I can't believe my brother is sleeping right now. I know he's not. I know that we had to leave early for the what the fuck do you call it? A wake? Not even really a funeral. Memorial. Thank you, dear. My wife just said memorial. She's the woman behind the screen. She is the power behind the power. Yeah, memorial. Yeah, we had to leave memorial early. You know, she's got fibromyalgia. Her body's given out. I haven't slept right in 5 days, and there wasn't any more we could do. If we got blocked in to the memorial, we wouldn't have been able to go on time to get the car back so that all the rental stuff would be taken care of, which is what we get to do today. So there's the emotional fallout from all of that. There's an extended emotional breaking that happens to everyone who loved those people that you I don't know if I can say that you loved them. I guess you loved them. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. That loved you before you do something like this. Why it's selfish. Wow, what a note. I'm not completely against suicide in all circumstances. I get it. People want to end their life. I understand it. I think we all go through that at different points. And a lot of times for very silly reasons. Suicide is what happens when the brain is determined that it can't find another way out. It's selfish because it doesn't take into account what people will see around you, what they'll have to deal with. And sometimes that selfishness is not as bad. But when you do it in front of people like that, it is the height of selfishness because you're only worried about you. I don't think I have to quantify why this is selfish. I don't understand why I'm doing this video. That this could become a point of discussion. That in any conceivable reality, someone could say this is right. But you know what? We'll toss it up there. We talk about dogma and right and wrong a lot. And damn it, sometimes you need a little bit of that. A little bit of right and wrong, a little bit of your own personal dogma to keep you from doing shit like this. And if that's the reason why people think that this is not selfish, that you don't understand what that person was going through, right? I don't understand what they're going through, but I know what their wife went through. I know what their stepson went through. I know what their stepson's fiance went through. I know what their stepson's best friend, who was like a brother to them, went through. I know what his fiance went through. I know what the kids who belong to these people went through. And selfishness is classified as an action in which only your own personal space and reality are taken into account. And that's fine. But I don't want to hear a goddamn thing about good or right or just or helping people from anyone who classifies this as not a selfish act. I don't want to hear about the good things you've done, the people you've helped, or how you think you're right with the world in some way. You lose that right with me when you start this. And yeah, anyone who wants to go that road can apologize, and I'll take it into consideration. The people who suffer from this are the ones who are here. The ones who have to clean up the brains out of the car. The ones who have to watch the grieving widow cry and ask why. So, this was done with the authorization and permission of the son of the grieving widow, my brother. I let him know I was going to do this video beforehand to tackle this topic because I believe it raises awareness. If you're out there and you're suicidal, that means you're looking for a way to change something you can't change, and you need help, and you need to contact people. And if you are that terminally ill, you're in that much pain, and you absolutely must end your life, I am not going to give you the authority. I'm not going to say it's right to do it. But please consider your family before you do, and make a decision as to how you're going to do it in a way that doesn't involve blowing your goddamn brains out in a car with your wife or your husband or anyone else who loves you there in an enclosed space. Because I'm going to tell you that shit splatters. If you decide you have to go that road, then at least consider what it's going to do to the people around you. And if you're the kind of person that just does that in a moment in front of someone else that you know loves you, I ain't got nothing for you. You don't need to be on my friends list. You don't need to be in contact with me. You can go to hell. You can, I would say fuck you in the horse you rode in on. And normally I'd follow that up with I don't know your horse or something, but no, just fuck you at that point. That's where I'm at. Probably a little aggressive, a little strong for the viewer out there, especially if you're here going, well, who the hell would say something like that? That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at with this. I just watched someone who was like a mom to me break down and cry every day for 5 days, and there's nothing I can do. There's nothing anyone can do. I can't undo what was done. I can't fix this. I can't make this right. And I don't know anyone who can. And if that doesn't make this action selfish, I don't know what does. Had he sat down in a chair when no one was around and did this, I'd have understood. And I do understand that he did this for whatever reasons he had, and that they were his reasons. They meant something to him. I get that. But fuck your moral relativism. If you're so morally relativistic that you don't see how this was wrong, you probably shouldn't be watching Nights of Awakening. You probably shouldn't be watching or associating with me in any capacity, and that's just how that is. For all of you who just sat here and endured this, I go through suicidal points myself. I don't do anything with it, but I get there because sometimes the mind is pressing up against something where it doesn't see a way to win, a way to fix things, a way to make things right, and you become suicidal. And that's normal. We look for a way out, and we get a little bit of it. We don't get to the point where we do it. We get to the first steps, and I get that. And if you've been through that, I fully understand where you're coming from. And just think about your family. Think about the people that love you. And if not them, think about the poor people that are going to have to clean you up. Or they're going to have to put you in the ground. Or they're going to have to deal with all of that. And if you're... If it's someone out there who knows someone who took their own life, I feel for you. If they did it like this and you're not angry, I understand that also, but I'm angry. I'm angry because it was wrong. Because it's wrong to put your wife through this, and it's wrong to put your son-in-law through this, and to put his best friend through this, and to put their wives or fiancés through this, and then their children through this, and then no, it's wrong, okay? And I draw lines. Because I'm a knight. That's what it means. That's what a knight is, okay? You want your goddamn definitions, that's what it is, okay? We look and we see good and we see evil and we draw a line. And it's not always the same line and it's not always clear. And it's different in every circumstance, I'll tell you. That's why it's a drawn line. That's why we don't carry a goddamn line around with us and just set it down. We draw lines where we need to, where we see it. And that's what this is. This is my line. Thank you all for joining me. Again, the fundraiser information is in Nights of Awakening under Nog Loki Shivanath, his post that was shared. Any bit helps. $1 helps with this. 50 cents donated to that PayPal helps. You may not believe it, but if everyone who watched every video that we do did that, then his mom wouldn't be worrying about what she's got to do to pay for the cremation of her husband who blew his own brains out. So, as I said, start of this, we are the Knights of Awakening, and I mean that more now than ever. Thank you all, and I hope that you awaken the night within.